How's it going, Knicks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Fireside Knicks with your hosts Dylan and Davin. Today, we're going to talk about Jalen Brunson, the Knicks superstar point guard that we haven't really discussed a whole lot this offseason. I think by now we mostly expect Brunson to do a lot of great things, but he's got a bunch of new pieces around him this season. Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns in particular. He now has a full season with OG Anunoby as well. It's a brand new team this start of the season than it was at the start of last season. So we're going to talk about if Brunson could have an even better season than last year. He finished fifth in MVP voting, averaged over 28 points a game, was top 5 in scoring, had 32 points per game in the postseason, 44 straight 40-point games as well in that regard. So we're just going to dive right into it, talk about Brunson a bit. So Davin, tell me how you're doing first off, and secondly, what are your expectations for Jalen Brunson this season? Do you think he could be even better than what he was last season?
Doing great, man. Thank you for asking. And to be quite honest with you, Jalen Brunson has not hit his ceiling yet. I don't believe he's at his peak as far as a professional basketball player goes. I think there are some things he could be better at, which is crazy to say, right? He averaged 28 points a game last year, over 28 points a game last year. But little small things that we could really see an improvement in as far as like decision making, shot selection, things like that. And I believe personally that with having Karl Anthony Towns on the roster now, it's going to take him back to when he was in Dallas. He had Porzingis and Luka over there, and that's probably the highest true shooting percentage we saw from Jalen Brunson. Of course, he had less shot attempts. The whole entire offense wasn't on him, but now he's in a position where I think he's in a situation, like, for example, top 5 MVP votes last year. All right, we understand how that stuff works. He's going to be voted the same. He's going to be treated the same. Now that he has more of a stacked roster, are we going to put him in that conversation? But I believe when he improves a couple of areas, it'll be undeniable at that point. So let's get him into a point where he was shooting, 59% true shooting last season. He had 61% the year 2021 in Dallas. Obviously, he only averaged like 17 points per game. So definitely, you know what I mean? His load is higher, but he can excel higher. He can give himself a higher shot quality, higher shooting percentages. I think a 50, 40, 90 season from Brunson puts him in an elite club, and something like that would really stamp him as an MVP level, top 3, top 2 MVP level player. That's kind of where we're adding right now, because he's in a situation now where the talent around him, it's kind of going to dictate his award winning, and that's kind of just how it goes. We saw it in Golden State, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. They had a rule where both of those guys couldn't even be on the first team, no matter how good the season was. They both couldn't be on the first team because the way the cookie crumbled for the media. They're like, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to allow that. Same with LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Things are definitely, Anthony Davis gets a little less credit than he deserves, maybe, just because the team around him, you have LeBron James on your team, man, you should be doing this even more. You know what I mean? So things like that can hinder Brunson, but if he improves, I think in a little small key areas, he'll become undeniable at that point.
Right, and one of the takes that I had about a month ago, and I posted this on Fireside Knicks, I said that Jalen Brunson could finish top 3 in MVP voting. I really believe that too. He finished 5th in MVP voting last season behind a bunch of other talented players. SGA, Luka Doncic, and I think Jokic were the finalists. Jokic, of course, winning the MVP award. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Brunson's going to win MVP just because it is very, very tough for, a point guard at his stature and the team he's got around him to actually get to that number 1 spot in the MVP, especially with the talent around the league too, with the other guys I just mentioned. So I'm not going to act like he's going to definitely win MVP, but I think he has the capability to be a finalist, just like how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was last season with the Oklahoma City Thunder. We see how good of a leader Jalen Brunson is already. I mean, look at last year. The team was decimated to hell, right? Every single player was injured. They were missing so many different guys. Brunson almost led this team to the Eastern Conference Finals on his own, right? And that's just in the postseason. And to me, postseason performance matters so much more than the regular season. I'm sure almost everybody would agree with me on that, but that's besides the point. I think Brunson can really top his career high in points also. He averaged almost 30 a game last year, 28.7 to be exact. Probably could have had 30 if he didn't play 1 minute of that Cleveland game where he got injured. If you guys remember that game, that was like in early March, I believe. If he didn't play that game entirely, I think his point average would have been much closer to 30, but that's besides the point. I think Jalen Brunson can definitely clear that 30 point per game threshold now with the new pieces around him, right? Look at the guys around him. You have Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns. All of those guys can shoot the basketball. You just surrounded Jalen Brunson with shooters, and not just shooters, some of the most efficient shooters in the entire league at their positions, right? Now that he has all those pieces around him, the spacing is going to be ridiculous. I mean, we know Jalen Brunson is a very good three-point shooter, but I think we also know that his strength is not the three-point line. It's inside the arc, at the post and the mid-range and stuff. that's where his strength is. That's his go-to spot. Now he's going to have so much more room to operate with Towns on the floor, with him being able to shoot the ball at the center position. Because if you look in the past seasons, when Mitchell Robinson was starting, it was much harder for Brunson to get those looks inside. Same thing when Julius Randle was still here. It wasn't as easy for him. Like, yes, he would make those shots, but they would be very tough shots. That's a credit to him because he's a tough shot maker. But now it's going to be so much easier because look how easy it was for him when Hartenstein was starting. Look how great that pick and roll combination was when Hartenstein came into the starting five and then they were playing together. I mean, the sky is really the limit for Brunson at this point. I think, of course, we have all these expectations with this Knicks team this year because of all the new pieces we're adding, but we can't forget about Jalen Brunson at all. This guy is a winner. This guy is a leader. This guy can really take us to the next level, I think, and I'm really excited for it because now that we got all these new guys around him, much better looking roster, a bunch of spacing, a bunch of shooters. I mean, how are you going to stop him? How are you? I mean, it's already going to be tough for, teams to handle Towns and stuff as well, because Towns is one of the best scorers at the center position as it already is. Now you got Jalen Brunson right here, who's just hitting all different types of shots from every spot of the court at 6'2" or whatever how tall he is. Small point guard hitting ridiculous shots. It's just there really is no way to stop him. It was already impossible to stop him last season when the spacing wasn't even that great. The spacing was not the best during the postseason, and he still was just cooking everybody. 4 straight 40-point games, like I mentioned, averaged over 30 points in the playoffs. He was definitely a top 5 playoff performer last season. And now we got all this. Oh, man. He could very well get to 35 points a game in the postseason and 30 points a game in the regular season. I could definitely see that. What else you got about that, though? Because I really think the sky's the limit for him scoring-wise.
Scoring wise, it's going to be very interesting. I think little things, like I said, can be changed. But like you said, the guy's a great leader. We saw the GM survey come out just yesterday. They voted Jalen Brunson the second best leader in the NBA as far as leadership goes amongst players. And it's they're recognizing him for what he is. The New York Knicks themselves are recognizing that they've built this whole entire team. They're this is our guy. By all means, he's our captain. We're going to do everything we can to give him all the weapons he needs to succeed. And that's something I guarantee NBA teams are just fans of the other NBA teams are so jealous of because these guys have given Jalen Brunson the keys, and now they're letting him go out there and really cook with it. And it's going to be insane to see. Like I said, quality talent on his team. You had the guy average 32 points per game in the playoffs last year, right? But he had a true shooting percentage of 53%. So something like that, when he came off of 59% in the regular season, when you have better players around you, that won't be much of an issue as far as shot quality goes. You're going to take better shots. You're going to get better reps. So it's that's something I expect to rise for Jalen Brunson that give him that. Yeah, he's going to be averaging over 35 points. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, if there are quality shots all the time, he's taking the right shots. He's not forcing anything. He's not getting to any shot that you think would be a disadvantage for him over a hard defender and anything. Because he has to with the roster he had last year in the playoffs. No. Now you can go get to your sets, go get to your spots, and do what you have to do. And it's going to be insane to see. I honestly, we haven't seen something to this level because he's the guy now as compared to when he was in Dallas. He was, the third, fourth guy there. And it's okay, he's looking efficient. He's looking good. 61% true shooting in Dallas. But at the same time, man, you're the guy now. You're the guy now. If he's shooting 61% true shooting in New York, shot quality, and he's out here, as the guy, he's going to, like I said, undeniable. The guy's going to be in MVP talks, MVP top 3, maybe top 2. Literally, I believe that is the case for him. And it will become the point where he become these guys aren't role players. Quality Towns went number 1 in 2015. At the same time, so it's there will be rhetoric, there will be discussions from the media trying to push agendas and everything. But at the same time, Jalen Brunson's even better than he was with this roster around him. He's undeniable, man. And that's kind of the way I see it. I said last year he shot 47%, 40% from 3, 3 points out of his strong suit. He shot 40% from 3 last year. That's nothing he has to improve on. But he gets his field goal percentage up, free throws up. He's joining an elite club, a Kevin Durant club, a Stephen Curry club. He's joining a club of players that have done something that is, really a select few have done. And that's kind of what I think that should be his next level, the next step for Jalen Brunson. He's that guy, man. All-star. He's going to be another all-star this year, too. And Cat and Bridges on your team with OG Anunoby, like you said, the sky's the limit for him. 32 points per game, 35 points per game. Who cares? But at the same time, I need you to make the right shots, man. Take the right shots, and that's all I really care about. He's going to be MVP votes regardless, man. We know it's going to happen.
Right, and I think he's also got an opportunity to make All-NBA first team. He was infamously snubbed in that category last season in place of Jason Tatum, which, I wholeheartedly disagreed with. But I know Tatum had a good season, so I'm not going to fully discredit Tatum on that. But I do think Brunson was better. but that's besides the point. I think that this is the year he can really crack that spot. And I know the point guard position is a loaded spot. You still have Steph Curry out there. You still got like Luka Doncic if you consider him a point guard, SGA as well. I know it's a loaded position, but I think Jalen Brunson is that talented to where he can make that spot. And he can definitely get that All NBA first team selection because, like you were just talking about, he's efficient. This is one of the most efficient high-level scorers in the entire league, if not the highest. It's insane. Like we were just saying, 3-point's not even his strong suit, yet he shot 40% from 3 last year. And this is a guy who shoots damn near 50% from the field as well, and almost 90% from the free throw line. I really thought a 50-40-90 season last year was possible. And honestly, he was on track to do just that until the guys got hurt. And you can't exactly point the finger at Brunson and say, oh, well, he started to slump. No, not really. I mean, the pieces around him were just, he didn't have a supporting cast. It is what it is. It happens. Now look at the team, though. You have so many different mouths to feed. Josh Hart's not going to get many shot attempts. We know that. But Mikal Bridges is going to get shot attempts. OG Anunoby is going to get shot attempts. Karl-Anthony Towns is the team's second option. Now, of course, that could hinder, whether or not Brunson reaches the 30-point threshold. But personally, I don't really care that much about the 30-point threshold. I care about just being successful, having a great season, and leading us to where we need to be, which is, of course, the Eastern Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals and hopefully a championship, right? But my point here is Brunson's talent level is that good that we can't just forget about it. When this guy gets on a heater, he's impossible to stop. I mean, look at the Phoenix game last year in December, right before the OG trade. I mean, what? He went perfect in the second half, 35 points in that second half on the way to a 50 ball. Dropped 60 points on Victor Wembanyama as well. Of course, they ended up losing that game against San Antonio, but still just a masterful performance. I mean, we've seen this guy time and time again just kill opponents, and you feel like once maybe a team has him stopped, no, they don't, because then Brunson just starts going crazy in the second half. This is a guy who is a second half player. He's a playoff riser. This is a guy who comes up clutch in the moments. I think he has the opportunity to win Clutch Player of the Year. I think that is another possibility as well. Like I was saying, the sky is the limit. The Knicks can really have a bunch of players, loaded with accolades. Not only can Brunson be an MVP finalist, a Clutch Player of the Year guy, he could even be a scoring champion as well this season. I think that's capable. I think you also have OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges being possibly tabbed as all defense candidates, even Defensive Player of the Year candidates as well. Karl-Anthony Towns could be an all-star. I mean, they're going to be loaded with accolades this season, and I think Jalen Brunson at the forefront, that's where it really all begins, and that's where it should be. Because like you were saying too, they've handed him the keys now. They've made it clear that this is Jalen Brunson's team. It was pretty clear once they traded away Julius Randle that they're no longer going to, kind of have those two battle for that number one spot on the team. They're going to give the keys to Brunson. This is Brunson's team. We're going to surround him with the guys that fit his play style the best. And I think the moves that they made were all the right ones. Of course, we can't fully say that until we watch these guys play together in the regular season. But on paper, this really is one of the best, if not the best, starting fives in the league. And I saw Brian Windhorst on ESPN also say this, but they could be the number one offense in the league. They really could. I mean, you have, along with Brunson, Towns, Bridges, and Anunoby, all guys who are capable of putting up at least 20 a game. Of course, I don't expect all of them to put up 20 a game because you got to distribute the shots in some way, and you're going to get Jalen Brunson the most shots. That's what you got to do. It's his team. It's his offense. The offense is going to run through him. But with the offense running through him, I mean, he's going to have everywhere to go. I mean, there's really no spot of the court that you're going to go, he's not going to be able to go there because so-and-so is standing there. No, he's got everywhere now. Everywhere. Like, when Mitchell Robinson was starting, it was hard to get in the paint in the restricted area because Mitchell Robinson's not floor spacing. Teams are not worried about him standing in the corner or anything like that. They know he's there as a decoy if that's what he was doing, right? With Karl-Anthony Towns, though, and as aggressive as a shooter as he is, you can't just lay your eyes off him. So there's no paint protection right there for teams for Brunson to just go to work. So that's free game right there. And we know how good Brunson is through contact as well, so he's going to get his buckets every single time. I'm fully confident. I think his efficiency is going to shoot up this season. I think his points per game average will go up higher too. Like I said, he could be a scoring champion. He really could. I mean, he does have the potential for that. He was fourth in scoring last season. He had more points per game than Kevin Durant. I mean, this is a guy who can definitely do that. I want to ask you, though, this, Davin. Do you think Jalen Brunson can win the MVP award? I know we were briefly talking about that before, but do you think he can top Jokic or Luka Doncic for that MVP award this season?
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. That's where the small things come in because I believe he can be an MVP. I believe that he took 21 shots per game last season. It's really about the small things. Like I said, you taking the right shots. He's playing five out now. We just talked about that. He has a floor now, really all the space he needs to navigate. And if he's taking the most efficient and the best shot quality that he can, on 21 shots per game. Let's be serious. 21 shots is insane. He's taking that per game. So he gets about to keeps around the same 20, 21 shots per game. He's averaging 30 points per game. He's undeniable at that point if he's shooting the right, the efficient splits. Because when you're going against like the guys like Jokic, our advanced guys. These guys know how to, put the ball in the basket and where exactly to do it. Jokic, he aggravated me at first, but I really understood what he's doing out there. I'm like, this guy he's a master of the game.
Jokic
He
is
knows
a
where
beast, man.
get into his spot every time. He knows where to be. He knows how to be there. Rebounds off of the. He knows what's coming off the rim, which direction. Like I'm like, this guy is ridiculous.
His
Now
play style is ugly, but he gets the job done.
it's undeniable. It's really undeniable, and that's really what it is with Jalen Brunson. Like I said, it's really the small things because that's what they're going to be nitpicking about it, especially with this Knicks team. That's something we have to realize. This Knicks team is that good. And they're so good that they're going to. It's going to hinder Brunson almost when it comes to media awards. It will because the guy you have on a super talented team. Same with Jason Tatum. We talk about Jason Tatum. Okay, Jason Tatum, I believe, is the best small forward in the league. I'm going to give him his credit where it's due. This guy is really good. This guy's really good. That's just my opinion. Now, is he going to be an MVP? No, he's not. Because why? This guy's team is insane. This guy's team is stacked. And if you're going to be that good and with a stacked team like that, something's got to give. And that's just how the media works, man. It's just how it works. I believe this team that Jalen Brunson has right now, for him to be MVP, there has to be no nights off. And Jason Tatum, yeah, he's good at what he does, amazing living teams, but there may be some nights off there. There might be some time where he's not going to give his all on offense because he doesn't have to. Jalen Brunson has to. That's the thing. This is Jalen Brunson's team. There's no question about it. There's no question who the Finals MVP will be. You know what I mean? This guy's going to take every shot. He has to take every shot. That's how Jalen Brunson plays. So that's just the way I see it. That's just my opinion on that, though, because we understand how these awards work and everything like that. So for him to win MVP, he has to be the supreme being of himself at every corner you can think of. You know what I mean? True shooting, his shot efficiency, 50, 40, 90. I think that right there is what he's aiming for because that 50, 40, 90 almost makes you undeniable because when you're doing that, obviously other things fall into place, true shooting percentage and things like that, or your free throw, everything, you're just that guy. You're that guy. And then clutch player of the year, that also is going to fall into place if you're the one that has the ball in his hands and closing the games and in fourth quarter. And that's really just the way I see it because the Boston Celtics fans will argue all day about Jason Tatum. If that's your opinion or not, how good he is, but at the same time, he's not going to win any awards with that team he has around him because if you're not the guy that's putting up, the 50, 40, 90s and the 60 points, this and that, you're not doing that, then let's be real, man. You're not going to be in the conversation. But Jalen Brunson, I believe, is a little different, wired a little differently. He's a dog out there. And I believe if he has to do what he has to do to shoot 50, 40, 90 and have high-scoring games and be that guy that's on the headlines all the time, then that's what it takes. He'll become undeniable. And that's really what it's all about, being undeniable, making that for yourself, and being 50, 40, 90 will be that for me. I believe that's the least he can do is you know what I'm saying, because they're going to just push every agenda they can. But 50, 40, 90 would be a perfect way to kind of shut down the haters and shut down the noise of like, oh, you have these guys on your team. You're supposed to be doing this. Well, I'm the one shooting 50, 40, 90. Like, you can't tell me what I'm supposed to. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's kind of the way I see it, though. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that last point you just made was a very good point because, like, you can say, like, oh, this guy has these guys around him, though, that's why he's doing so good. But, I mean, when you're taking a lot of shots and you're efficient, that's on you as a player. That's not,
Exactly. Yeah.
your teammates are not the ones shooting 50, 40, 90. You are the one shooting 50, 40, 90, or whatever it may be. Even if it's not 50, 40, 90, still good efficiency, right? So, I really do think, though, that this is the year for Jalen Brunson to really take off and really officially, like, I think he's already established himself as a superstar, but I think this season he'll establish himself like officially into that like Jokic, Doncic, SGA tier of like these guys are top 10 players in the league. Because if you don't want to say Jalen Brunson is top 10 at the moment, I might disagree, but I can live with an argument. I think this season he's going to establish himself as a top 10 player. I think he's going to establish himself also as a top 3, top 2 point guard in the NBA, maybe even the best point guard in the NBA. Because you mentioned the GM poll, and I saw the GM poll, and I think he finished 4th in the voting for best point guard in the league. I believe they had Luka, SGA, and Curry above him. Which, okay, that's fine. I can live with it. They have the success. They've proven it, and they did a lot last season and stuff like that. So I understand it. But I think Brunson's going to enter that conversation for the best once again, and I think he might even have a stronger case after this season. And I'm
Oh
speaking
yeah,
fairly highly about him, but what he did last season is why he was named the captain.
yeah.
You don't just get named the captain by accident. This is a guy who, like we've been saying, the Knicks gave the keys to. This is his team. I think he's going to really show that this is his team too, and lead these guys to where they need to be. I fully trust him to do everything right this season. I mean, he did everything right last season and the year before that, so I have no reason to believe he wouldn't do it again. And like we've been saying this episode too, if you look at Brunson's career numbers, every single year he's trending upward. Every single year he ups that point per game average. He ups that assist average too. Underrated playmaker, by the way. For a guy that doesn't get a lot of credit in that category, he is an underrated playmaker. Of course, that's not his strong suit. Of course, he's mainly a scorer, but that's besides the point. This is a guy who every year trends upward. Shooting percentages go up. Points per game averages go up. Assist numbers go up. All that stuff goes up. And of course, when you're handed a bigger role, it will play a part, because when he did sign with the Knicks, he was guaranteed to be the starting point guard, which was not the case in Dallas. So I acknowledge that. But at the same time, he was still trending upwards in Dallas as well. So this was bound to happen. Did I fully anticipate him being a 30-point per game scorer, though, within 2 seasons? I don't think a single person could have predicted that, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody here, anyone watching this video, me and Davin, I don't think anyone could have expected him to be at this stage this quickly. I think he had the potential to do it. I always believed that. I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. I always thought maybe, okay, if he's 20-point per game scorer, I would be very happy with that, because look how bad the point guard situation had been for the Knicks for years. For years. Honestly, since like Walt Clyde Frazier. It had been that bad. I mean, this is literally the best point guard the Knicks have had since Clyde Frazier.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, like, they haven't had a point guard this good. The last time they had a good point guard was probably like, your Starks and stuff like that back in the 90s. Good point guard, but nothing like this. It was nothing like this. Brunson really has the chance. He's already one of the best players in franchise history, and he really has a chance to even one day end up being the best. That's a very high ceiling, of course. I know it's a very high standard, and it'll require a lot. It'll require at least one championship. It'll probably require an MVP. I think he's capable of doing all of that, though. We cannot underestimate just how good this guy is. He is that good. I think this is the year he really does something, and I really am very, very excited for him. I think this is going to be the year that he really, really shines and really gets the Knicks to where they want to be. But before we wrap this up, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of just get your final thoughts on this and what you think we could see out of Jalen Brunson this season and beyond.
No, man, amazing points. Like I said, look, everything is really coming down to how he's going to formulate, I say, around playoff time. Like, we know the regular season where it counts, but they don't vote this stuff until after, like, the first, second round. And they act like it doesn't matter. It matters. When he comes around the playoff time, like I said, true shooting percentage last year was 53%. That's not bad, but it could be better. It could definitely be better. Let's get this guy up to as a peak efficiency, and that's really my whole focus of Jalen Brunson's argument. I've been saying it this whole episode too many times almost probably, so let me cut it back a bit. 50, 40, 90, yeah, sure, but at the same time, if he's not even doing that, I think having a high true shooting percentage is really what makes your team better. Everyone else is going to be taking better shots because you're taking better shots, and things like that will kind of just trickle down affect really how that's going to go for the Knicks. And that's just kind of the way I see it, man. I think Jalen Brunson, like you said, this is the year. You think last year was it? No, this is the year. This is all eyes are on the Knicks now. It's like the biggest stage we've ever seen in like over 2 decades. Before I was born, probably, the Knicks have been as good as they are right now. Like 95 maybe. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So it's like, if this is where we're at now, I'm too ready to see it. I'm looking forward to this. And I think playoff basketball, Brunson, that first, second round, how he kind of formulates. When we get to this conference finals, they'll talk about all that. But I think that's really where it's going to matter. You know what I mean? 53% true shooting. That just means they were clamping down. And we didn't have the roster around him when we facing the Pacers. So it's like, he has a roster around him now.
You had Precious Achiuwa and Miles McBride starting.
You know what I mean?
No disrespect to those guys. Those are my guys, but they're not the guys that were supposed to be starting.
They're going like, that was regular season Jalen Brunson. Oh, you think it was? Okay, well, here's playoff Jalen Brunson. And now that all that MVP talk, you guys talking about he's borderline or fringe. No. He's here. He's arrived. He's already here. And that's when all the eyes will be on him, I believe. And that's when I think the voters will be like, you know what, we can't. If he's not 1, he might be like 10 votes for number 2. Like, that kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am looking forward to it. And I know it's going to be a very exciting year for Jalen Brunson.
Right. Yeah, very good points once again. And yeah, like we've been saying, this is the year. Everyone's watching us. Everyone has these high expectations for us. So it's on them to go out and show it. And I think Jalen Brunson in particular is going to prove a lot of people wrong this upcoming season. But we will, of course, see about that. But guys, we hope you really enjoyed this video. I know it was a little longer, but I think we really need to talk about Jalen Brunson because it was a guy we hadn't really talked about this offseason. We've talked about all their shiny new toys, but we got to remember we have a superstar point guard on our team. So we really need to talk about him and really talk about what he can do this season. So let us know what you think about that in the comment section below and where you really think this man can finish in MVP voting, where he could get us this year, all that stuff. We would love to hear about it. You can follow us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, of course, this YouTube page you are watching the video on. You can follow our personal Twitter accounts. They are above our heads. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.